After many years of experience at the middle school, she is extremely knowledgeable and does a great job of helping new staff navigate the waters. She's been a mentor to many students, or many teachers and students, my guess is, deans, assistant principals, making everyone feel welcomed while showing them the ropes. Kathy Moore is an essential member of the Fridley Middle School community. So congratulations, September 2006 Employee of the Year, Employee of the Month, Kathy Moore. And then on the heels of that, we are now caught up with the Employee of the Month for October. And Tiffany Little is the community ed instructor who works with our district's youngest learners in the Tiger Club Itsy Bitsy Tigers Infant Toddler Childcare at FCC. She came to us as a high school volunteer while she was an ALC student. We were lucky to hire her after graduation and thankfully have been able to talk her out of moving across country in order for her to stay with us. Tiffany is calm, consistent, and encouraging in her demeanor with the children, which is just what infants and toddlers need. She genuinely cares about the children in her care. She forms bonds with children and families that extend beyond the classroom, often babysitting for families outside of the school day. Tiffany is very diligent and conscientious of all her duties. She builds connected and supportive relationships with coworkers, pulls her weight for the team, is willing to do extra or different hours whenever needed for the program. It is clear that Tiffany really cares about the environment we are creating for our children and families. She aspires to pursue her education in the field of early childhood education, and she will be an outstanding professional in this field. Tiffany's reliability and wonderful attitude make her very deserving of this award. Congratulations, Tiffany.
Thank you very much. Our next item will be superintendent and staff reports, beginning with the Hayes. And Mr. Piotrowski.
Well, good morning, board, or good morning, good evening, board members. I told you that capes were a possibility.
Okay.
Here we go. We're donning our capes tonight. Our superpower is reading, so we're gonna share that with you tonight. You know, it's our intention in the next 15 minutes to try to give you a snapshot of what our school looks like. And I've got several superheroes with me tonight to share some great things that are going on at our school. And I know that we talked about this in the work session, but it's very difficult to encapsulate this in 15 minutes. So if it goes to 17 minutes, I'm going to ask for some forgiveness. You're going to cut me off. First thing that I want to do, Lori, I hope I have this right. Welcome to the home of the giraffes. Jack is our mascot. That's a picture of him right there. Jack stands for joyful, awesome, courageous, and kind. He is seen in and around our school on a regular basis, motivating us, lifting our spirits up, having fun. Sometimes every once in a while he gets into some trouble, but we forgive him because he's there to create joy. So one of the first things I want to talk about is our Blue Can Be You theme. And Blue Can Be You is our positive behavior intervention strategy system that we have in our school. This last year, we identified 5 expectations that we want all kids to focus on. And we work to teach those expectations all the time using a grid system like this or a matrix like this. And one of the things that we do is we hand out Caught Blue-Handed slips. And Caught Blue-Handed slips are given to kids on a daily basis who show that they're meeting those 5 expectations. Now, we have a paper box in the office that's decorated kind of blue. I know that's a surprise. And kids earn those tickets and are allowed then to put their name and their room number in that box. And we draw about 10 names every day out of that box to give prizes to and awards. And that is our reinforcement system. So we're sort of reinforcing the expectations. Now, I know that as board members, you've heard a little bit about our MTSS work. That's a component of our MTS work. The PBIS system that we have in our school is a direct link to that work, and it's part of our Tier 1, Tier 2 system. I am going to ask Mary Q to come up. Mary Quiring is one of our awesome reading teachers at Hayes, and she is going to talk a little bit about some fun things that go on around our school, and we call this section New Ways to Learn.
Good evening. So in new ways, You were gonna click it? I want my power here. So in New Ways to Learn, one of the first things I want to share with you this evening is our LLI new intervention program that we implemented last year for our most struggling readers. LLI stands for Leveled Literacy Intervention. And it is intensive, comprehensive reading support for those most struggling readers. And we were able to work within, with our staff to provide that intervention outside of the literacy and outside the math block, so that children were getting an additional 30 minutes of support in their reading each and every day. The program is very fast-paced. The materials, the books that the children are reading are very engaging and diverse, with diverse topics in both fiction and nonfiction. At Hayes, we like to celebrate learning in many different ways, and one of the things that we kicked off last year in October was Mustache at a Question Month. So when we caught kids asking wonderful questions such as, what's that smell just before it rains? We would reward them with a mustache and celebrate their thinking and their inquiring and support them in their thinking. We celebrate each other and our diversity. Last year in February, we celebrated World Cultures Month, and we put this under the umbrella of learning in new ways because we were able to share the food of different cultures, the music, the clothing, and children and our community members came in to help us celebrate that and share what their lives are like. We celebrate each other and we learn about each other through a number of events that we carry throughout the year, such as Bully Prevention Day, Wacky Wednesday is a great one, and in February we have our Dress as Your Favorite Book Character. And we want to have Blue Day to reinforce the information that we do in the Blue Can Be You. So we try to bring in that learning in multiple levels for kids and keep those same messages resonating and echoing throughout our day and our year. And this also ties into our monthly kickoffs, where we have staff members present in a skit format behaviors that we're wanting to see kids or expectations of kids. And we teach that we want them to understand in a new way, in a skit format, that they too can be responsible, that they too can ask a question, or they can also reinforce some of our PYP learner profile type of expectations, and we share that in a skit format that once a month. One reading activity that we did last year for our youngest readers, our kindergarten and first graders, was Hungry for a Good Book. And the expectation was that every single kindergartner and first grader would read a minimum of 20 books in 10 weeks. That's only 2 books a week. And they could read it to themselves, they could read it to a friend, they could have somebody read to them. We sought the help of community members to volunteer to help some of those children that would not be able to read or don't have the support to read at home. So we had community members come in and read to the children. They each got a free new to them book at the beginning of the program. And then at the end of the program, the children that met every child, whether they met the expectation or not, was awarded a new book to them that they could choose from and bring home. The goal of this program is to get that reading at home started early and right away, and then giving them materials that they can read at home. So I'd like to have my friend Tina Utley.
Hi, I'm Tina Utley. I teach 4th grade at Hayes, and I'm lucky enough to be in kind of the the older grade levels, to me, it's one of my favorite grade levels because you can really have those interactions with them. And last year we had, every year we try to take some international action. And last year we had a student initiated action where they really stepped forward and took on a project through our water studies. We have our state standards, which is properties of water, the water cycle and so forth. And then through our international standards, we go beyond and we think about accessibility to clean and safe drinking water outside of the United States. And we came across a lot of the fact that we are very lucky in Minnesota to have, the freshwater state, and other countries did not have that access. So through our studies, we found H2O for Life, which is a local company located just right in New Brighton. Patty Hall was the founder, and she started this years ago as a teacher at Highview Middle School. So through this, they decided to choose a school in Haiti that they wanted to help, and they chose big. Leave it to fourth graders to go big. They chose a $10,000 project, a full wash project located in Haiti that included a filtration system, a water tank, hand washing stations, hygiene education, and free maintenance of the equipment for 10 years. Well, I remember sitting down with them saying, well, 10,000 is too, it's a pretty lofty goal. Let's maybe go for 2,000. They're like, no, we're gonna go bigger. Let's go 3. And I'm like, okay, we'll go 3. Well, they actually ended up raising more than $5,000 for this project. And other schools came in and joined us, so we were able to bring that to that school in Haiti. It's École Mixte Action Fraternelle. And so we did raise $5,178 with that. And I think the most powerful part of that project, though, was the authentic learning that came out of it. With that, there were a lot of public speaking engagements that the students took part in. They also had a speaker from Haiti come in and talk to them about what it was like for him in Haiti, what it was like for him not to have access to clean and safe water. They also did a walk for water where they carried buckets of water back and forth at World Cultures Night to see what it was like. And Patty Hall came and talked to our classroom a couple times to talk about her projects that are going in. So that authentic learning was the biggest part. And also the students started talking about water conservation. It wasn't just that they did something good for another country. They actually started talking about what they can do to conserve water here in Fridley. Through that, we did have one group of students that took that for their exhibition project and took it even further, raising money, continued after our kind of the stop time. They just kept at it through exhibition time. Exhibition is a culminating project, the final project for our PYP years. It's a celebration of the learning that takes place through their K5 or K4 journey. Some of the action that comes out of there, I know some of us were able to join exhibition from our board, but it's really a great way to come and see what our students are doing at Hayes. We had students who were disabled for a day because they took on the advocates for the disabled. We had students who did a kindness wall. We had the goodness that kindness does for our community. And thanks to construction, we had a nice blank sheetrock wall that the student kids just started writing really fun comments on, encouraging them throughout the day. So when you walk down that barren hallway, you were filled with positive quotes. Wow. And they also put up sticky notes throughout the lockers of students. So when they came out of class, they had a nice phrase for them. And then we had the continuation of the water ed, and we had students who went into the courtyard for caring for animal habitats, cleaned that all up, so the courtyard looked good again in the spring. And those are some of the action that came out of it. That was the students doing something, but some of the learning in action. The students did interviews with professionals, including we did Skype interviews. We had an interview with a deaf and hard of hearing person. We had non-renewable and renewable resources come in. Springbrook talked to us about the new project that they had with hydroelectricity that came in. So it was a really, really cool way to end our year every year. So come every year to our exhibition and see what we do. The presentation is always in the end of May. So on to Mrs. Wickman.
So caring is one of our IB learner profile attributes, and it is something that we really live at Hayes, and you've heard some stories about that. I want to highlight a few more. We have a group of parent volunteers that supply our students in need with food packs on weekends and over long holiday breaks. This project was started just before spring break last year, and since then we've already sent out around 500 of these food packs. We also have put together a few hundred school supply boxes filled with items such as pencils and markers and scissors and glue, and these go home with students who need increased access to supplies in order to complete homework or to continue their learning at home. We have a group of students that have taken on the task of teaching others in our school better recycling habits, and this is something that we've worked hard in this past year to take our recycling efforts to a whole nother level. So generosity and giving is a way of life for us at Hayes, and we're really proud of the many ways that we model those attributes. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. P.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about some of the new things that we did this last year. And I'll call it reaching new heights. We had one of our lunchroom supervisors came up with the idea of Cops in the Cafe. And she just pitched that idea to me, and I said, go with it, let's go. And she did a great job of recruiting some of our police officers. And we had police officers in our cafe every week for about half of the school year. And they'd come in and they'd set a table and they'd sit down with about 10 students and they'd have lunch. Great way to connect with kids. You can see just by the expression on the kids' faces and the officers too, it was really successful. Our art teacher, Laura Charles, came up with this idea about a year and a half ago to create a welcome wall in our front entryway. And what she did is she commissioned the kids to create an artistic drawing that used welcome in another language. And these kids put these drawings together, and she took the drawings and had them sent in, and they were put on tiles. So each one of those pictures is on 9 white tiles, and that's in our front entryway, and it sort of makes a mural, and each one of them says hello or welcome in another language. Really, really a beautiful thing to see. It turned out way better than I think we had ever dreamed it would. A wonderful way to celebrate their artwork and make people feel comfortable. Jack Pearson has been with us before. I chose to include this slide with us. He came to us last year and taught us about folk music and taught us about folk instrumentation. And this was during music class. The kids got to see him a couple times during the week. Jack has been with us every year for as long as I've been there, and then before then. And usually he'll come in and do a concert of some kind, but this time was focusing on folk music. Victor, the Vikings mascot, visited us in November, and he came to us and talked to us about bullying, sort of an anti-bullying campaign. It's the first time we have done that. And we started this. This is an idea. I actually saw this idea on social media and thought we need to try this at Hayes. What we did is we invited all of the seniors from Fridley High School that were graduating to come back and walk the circle one last time before they graduated. And I met them at the front door, and I led them around. We had all the kids sitting out in the hallway, and I think it was electrifying, wasn't it? I mean, cheering and rooting and hollering for them and high-fiving them, and then we finished it out in the courtyard where I had something, little gift for them, and we kind of have this saying around school that once a giraffe, always a giraffe. And we'll communicate that when staff, maybe moves on to other things or when kids graduate from high school. We're going to do this again this year. The bend this year is that we're going to not only invite our Fridley grads, but we're going to invite anybody that graduates from high school that went to Hayes to come back and walk the circle. Very special time. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to AJ Hansen and Sarah Armstrong. Sarah teaches kindergarten. AJ teaches second grade. They are technology leaders in our school, and they're going to talk to you about 21st century learning.
All right, hello again. Anthony and I were here just last year actually talking to you about this very thing, trying to invite you all to the GAFE conference. And so that's actually where it all began for Anthony and I in terms of making it a goal to teach these 21st century skills to both the teachers and the students in the building. I'll focus here on the teachers, and one of the things that we started last year was a Hayes user group. Coincidentally, the acronym is HUG, which, was super friendly and got everybody working together. And what we do at our hug meetings is we collaborate as a staff and try to encourage staff to develop those skills to teaching 21st century learners. In order to, guide our students down that pathway, we also have to possess those skills as teachers. And so we encourage teachers to think about selecting the right tool for the job and not just using technology or some of those, hot button words just to use them, but truly selecting a tool that's going to get the job done in the best way possible for your kids, but also focusing on workflow and how you can do things more efficiently, more effectively, in order to, save that extra time for preparing better for your students. One of the things that we encouraged teachers to do just last year was to think about the SAMR model, which is a model for basically including technology in your classroom in a very directed way, and not just using it to use it, but how can you push yourself to move beyond just the basic technology use. If you've ever heard of Bloom's taxonomy, it'll help you push students on that taxonomy as well. We've also encouraged teachers to think about their classrooms as 21st century classrooms, even as they're developing those skills, and thinking about how they could design their classrooms, thinking about what devices might help them achieve that goal, and shifting their mindset to really making that a goal for themselves and their students.
All right, so oh my goodness. Oh, I've gone and done it. That's all right.
Technology.
There we go. I'm on the student side. So. Really, the opportunity to go to the GAFE conference again was one of the best experiences ever, because I just really got to see what other teachers were doing, not only, in our area, but around the country at all different ages, all different levels. And this has really given us an opportunity to kind of take a lens and look at what does a 21st century classroom look like in Fridley, what does it look like at Hayes, and specifically for me, what did it look like in second grade? And I believe all throughout our school, our teachers are really effectively using what we call GAFE tools, which is Google Apps for Education. So they're collaborating with tools like Google Docs. Kids in my class, every year they make a Google Slides presentation on an endangered animal, and that's all driven by them. They're able to do that. They find the research. They use the devices that we have to access information that is out there. One of the biggest things I think teachers in our school are always pushing kids to find answers to their own questions. To take charge of their own learning. And I feel like if you walked into any classroom in our school, you would see kids taking charge of their own learning. And this has been possible through, great GAFE training and students who know how to use devices, and us really accessing those devices to help them have a better education. It's choosing the right tool for the job. We're not always on the computers, but it's using that technology like Twitter to connect with other classrooms. There's a great website out there where you can be pen pals, kind of email pen pals with another classroom in another country. So that's how we are, keeping up with current events. We're contacting other classrooms around the world, and we're really extending ourselves beyond Fridley, which is really great. Students are also doing STEM challenges. And last year I partnered up with Sarah and our classrooms together. We did about once a month a STEM challenge where students were engineering new things. They had one where we had to save Sammy, the gummy worm, which was really awesome. And kindergartners and second graders learning together, collaborating together is a really great experience. I think our main goal too in teaching 21st century skills is not always technology, it's also grit. I think more and more as kids come to us, they have a little bit less of that grit, and we're working every day to make sure that we're bolstering them with the skills they need to succeed not only in our school, but in the world. And I think, that's part of the Fridley mission, and we're continuing to do that every day. And, having devices, having technology, and having that 21st century classroom focus has really given us a chance to give student voice and choice. Again, like I said, they have a lot more control over their learning than I think that they ever have. And our teachers at our school do a really, really good job of getting students great choices in which they feel like they have been able to take charge of their own learning. So that's that. Here's a couple pictures.
So I'm going to just leave you with 10 key areas that we're going to be focusing on as we move forward. Continuing with Blue Can Be You, continuing with best practices in literacy and mathematics, continuing our work with web-based learning programs, continuing with anti-bullying work, ADSIS work, MTSS work. We're working with electronic portfolios, Google Classroom. We're going to be hitting cultural responsiveness very hard in the next couple of years, and then our new U of M Press reading program. It's really an honor to be employed at Hayes. It's really an honor to be the principal there. I love my job very much, and part of it is because of the awesome talent that's behind me. And I'm very grateful to have all of those people working for us at Hayes, and our kids are the benefactors. So thanks for letting us share Hayes' story tonight. We appreciate it. Any questions?
Can't wait to hear.
14 minutes, huh?
14 minutes.
Yeah, you did
14,
well.
59 seconds. I see it right there, guy.
So many good things going on at Hayes. I really appreciate all your efforts and thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you to you and
Very
all
nice.
your staff for all their hard work, too.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Thank you.
Our next presentation with the American Field Services, Sue Davis.
That's a really hard show to follow.
Be glad they wanted to bring their kids and puppies in, so that would have been the children and animals.
No, my children above, are out of college even, but this was very, very interesting, and I'm going to spread the word where I was tonight. So thank you for welcoming us. Our AFS student at Fridley High School this year is from Italy, and rather than mispronounce her name, she decided, you can just call me Kay. So that's what we do. And she's a very special person. She's doing very well in school. We're so proud of her. She even got a note from her English teacher, what a blessing she was, or asset she was to the class. And it's been a long time since Fridley High School has had an AFS student from Italy. So we'll ask Kay to come forward, and she likes questions too. She has a little presentation, not 14 minutes long, but a very interesting one too. Okay, dear.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Kautar, but I just go by Kay. I'm from Italy, from the north of Italy. I live in a little city named Trento, which is 5 hours from the capital, Rome. My natural parents are my father. He's a truck driver. My mother, she's a nurse, and I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. My American family is composed by 2 sisters and my mother, Janine. And I joined the cross-country team today. I just got
Good.
back from a race. I had my best time.
Yay.
good for you.
PR.
And at school, I take classes like photography, foods, and graphic arts, and biology. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. Do you have questions?
Were you concerned, or are you from where you are? Are you in more of the mountainous region, or is it more
Yeah.
toward the coastal region?
Yeah.
So you weren't too worried about coming to Minnesota and the horror
but
stories you're
now
hearing
I'm
of the
worried
winters.
because it's very cold.
So you said that you had your best race today. Back in Italy, did you participate in sports?
No,
Do they have
like
organized
no, they
sports?
don't have cross country.
Okay.
Like they have sports, but here it's more for Americans. It's more important sports. We
Okay.
just It's
So
different.
what else are you planning to participate?
For the winter, maybe gymnastics, and during the spring, maybe track.
Okay.
Very good.
So, did you select Minnesota as a destination? How did you end up in Minnesota?
No. I didn't choose. I just chose like the state, United States. We had like to put 3 preferences, and Yeah, my first one was United States, and then I got here.
Yay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And so you have two sisters and a brother, and where do you fall in the age? Are you oldest, middle, youngest, or?
Once I have a younger sister, she's 16, and the other older sister, she's 21, and my brother, he's 24 years
Okay.
old. Yep.
What's been your biggest surprise since you've been here?
Sorry?
What's been your biggest surprise
Oh,
in your travel
everything
here?
is so big here. Yeah. That's the first thing that I've noticed.
Big mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're proud to have you and glad to have you.
Have a good year.
Thank you.
The official handing over. Thank you so much.
And with that, we'll move on to the most difficult spot of the evening is following all of that. And we'll leave that to Mr. Matthew Hammer and talk a little bit about the audit report and actually bring the folks from KDV up. Oh, excuse me, Bergen KDV. I'm going to get that figured out one year.
So tonight we have Bergen KDV, Matt Mayer from Bergen KDV here tonight to present our 2015-16 audit results for the Fridley School District.
Thank you, Mr. Hammer. Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you for the invitation to present tonight. Just to give you some background on what we try to achieve with the audit, the district has a responsibility each year to prepare financial statements for the public to show the results of operations as well as your financial position. And before I get too deeply into the presentation, I want to thank Mr. Hammer and his team in the finance department here at Fridley. They were very well prepared for us to come in, and our job then is to test, examine, and give an opinion on the work that they do. And we do that through several independent auditors' reports. The first is one on the financial statements themselves, and our job is to provide assurance that that is a true and accurate picture of the the district's financial position. We provided an unmodified report or a clean report, which is the best we can provide, and we're going to look at some numbers a little bit later, and that report gives you assurance that that is in fact a true picture of where you stood financially. We also did some compliance work. The federal government wants to make sure that the money that they give to you is being spent appropriately, and this year we tested the special education program and had no findings or concerns with that. We also look at internal control and had one finding regarding the lack of segregation of accounting duties, a relatively common finding in the smaller districts and always a challenge to get appropriate segregation on a cost-benefit basis. But we provided the details of that in our report to you. And finally, the state wants to make sure that you're complying with all the various statutes that apply to school districts here in Minnesota. We look at things like contracting and bidding, conflicts of interest, how you're depositing, investing your funds, and again, happy to report no findings there. So a very clean audit for the district for the 2016 fiscal year. And with that, I'll spend the rest of my time talking a little bit about the results of operations for the year. We like to look at how the district did in the context of the budget. As a board, you direct the finances of the district, establish priorities on spending, on revenue, and basically direct the district at a high level on how you think the district should be run financially. And if you recall, for the 15-16 year, you approved a budget that had about $39 million of revenue, about $38 million of spending, some transfers out to other funds, and for all intents and purposes, it was a balanced budget with a small deficit or a small spending down of fund balance for the year of $120,000 or so. We look at the results of operations in the context of that budget, and we can evaluate how the year went as a result of that. If we look at the revenue side, revenue came in much better than anticipated. It was about $1.1 million better than anticipated. Most of that had to do with state special education aid coming in over the projections that you had in your budget. On the spending side, the district did a nice job of keeping an eye on spending and actually came in under budget by about $400,000 over the authorizations that you as a board provided. So rather than spending the fund balance down a little bit, it was actually a surplus year for the district, and you increased your financial health or your fund balance by about $1.4 million. The finances of the district are really driven by your student counts, so we keep an eye on that very closely each year, and we look at that a couple of different ways. One is through the resident ADMs, and that's the actual public school students that live within the district boundaries, whether they attend here or not. And actually, it was a little bit of a down year for the district as a result of some of the demographic changes, and actually your student count with the students living within the boundaries was actually down about 3.7% for the year. Now, the actual number that you serve, though, is a little bit different, and thanks to open enrollment, which allows students from other districts to attend Fridley, you also have the opportunity for your residents to attend other districts if they so choose. You actually came in better than anticipated, and actually there was a growth year as far as number of students served, up about 2% over the prior year. Revenue, as I mentioned, for the year came in better than anticipated. I want to show you where the revenue is coming from. About 82% of it comes from the state of Minnesota, about 11% from local taxpayers, and about 7% from the federal government or other local sources. We also look at where the dollars are being spent. And what I want to show here in this particular chart, although it's difficult to read, is that through the 4 different programs, where, as far as the actual instructional categories, we're talking about regular instruction, vocational instruction, special education instruction, and instructional support, 71% of the dollars spent in your general fund made it to the classroom in 2016. In 2015, that number was 70%. So certainly the vast majority of our dollars are going to the classroom directly. A quick look at financial health. As I mentioned earlier, the district ended the year with a $4.9 million total fund balance. Portions of that fund balance are restricted or set aside for various purposes, either mandated by the state or set aside by the school board or administration, and that leaves an unassigned fund balance at the end of the year of about $2.5 million. And that's the number on which we evaluate your financial health, the unassigned number near the bottom right of this particular chart. That is the number you match up against your fund balance policy here at the district. You have a new fund balance policy of between 7 and 10%, and calculating that $2.5 million fund balance comes out on the lower end of that scale, right around a 7% fund balance to end the 2016 fiscal year. You do have 2 other operating funds, and I'll conclude my presentation with a quick look at those. The food service fund, we isolate all of the food service activity in a separate fund to make sure that only the dollars that are taken in for that particular activity are spent on that activity, and that fund has had surpluses 4 of the last 5 years, a very strong fund balance to end the 2016 fiscal year of nearly 4 months worth of spending. And then finally, the Community Service Fund. These are programs like community education, early childhood, school readiness, and all the various community service activities that go on. This fund has struggled in past years with some fairly significant deficits back in 2012, 2014. It was a project of the district to take a look at operations very critically, make sure that the revenue streams were appropriate for the desired spending levels in this particular fund. Some changes were made that took effect last year and rolled into the 15-16 fiscal year. And you can see surpluses each of the last couple of years in this fund, and a strong financial position with positive fund balance for each of the different community ed programs to end 2016. So I want to commend the district for identifying a particular challenge and then certainly addressing that through some operational changes that reap significant benefits here in 2016. I'll leave my presentation at that. If there's any additional questions I didn't cover, I'd be happy to stay for those.
We do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, again, thanks.
Nice job as always.
Yes.
Okay, next we'll move on to business action items, beginning with a resolution accepting gifts. It's every month we're fortunate to receive some gifts to the district, and based on state statute, we do need to accept those as part of a resolution. This month's donations included the following: to Hayes Elementary. The Fridley United Methodist Church supplied some school supplies and backpacks. Grandpa's Ice Cream provided school supplies. Michael Paquette at $70. Michael Peterson at $14. Andy Rodill at $12.60. Deanna Roth, $105. And an anonymous donor in the amount of $67.34. With that, do we have a motion to accept these gifts and thank the donors?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Delvo, seconded by Lindblad, to accept the gifts and thank the donors for their contributions. Any further discussions? If not, clerk, can you call a roll?
Aye.
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 And the resolution passes. Our next up is a resolution with regard to the MSBA equalization. Mr. Hammer?
So tonight we have a resolution in front of you to support that the 2016 MSBA legislative platform includes equalization as a piece of that platform. And what this resolution basically says is that the Fridley School District supports the idea that taxpayers around the state of Minnesota should have a fair representation of, if your home value is of a similar value, you should be paying about the same amount of school taxes for the same amount of effort. And this resolution is put in front of you tonight for that to get on MSBA's platform. So,
Resolution.
Second?
We have a motion by Sampson, seconded by Lindblad, to approve the MSBA legislative resolution form, urging the legislature to include the enhanced operating referendum equalization into the tax bill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, can you call the roll?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
and the resolution passes. Our next up is a motion with regard to the school board organization. Due to a recent resignation that we had, there were a couple of positions that we were missing, and we have filled those with folks on, most notably the fact that we did not have a treasurer, and Donna Perwedo took over that position. So we'll need to approve that. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Lindblad, seconded by Delvo, to approve the school board officers and representative changes. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Our next item up is a second reading and adoption of policy 104, the mission statement. Ms. Oftedal.
I would just present to you for its second reading, Policy 104 mission statement with no changes from the previous submission.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of this policy?
Second.
Have a motion by Sampson, seconded by Lindblad, to accept the second reading and adoption of policy 104 mission statement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next item on the agenda will be the consent agenda, which includes routine action items, including the minutes of the regular school board meeting and work session that was held on September 20th, 2016, the minutes of the special school board meeting that was held on October 17th, the monthly financial reports, new contracts, amendments, leave of absence, termination, resignations, retirements, the statewide health improvement program agreement, as well as a CPM coaching grant. As part of that, a couple of things I would like to note on there with regard to retirements. We have a couple of longtime Fridley employees that are retiring this year. We have Becky Beck as well as Candy Latch, and we certainly thank them for all their hard work throughout the years. With that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Sampson, seconded by Lindblad, to approve the consent agenda as read. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion passes. One thing of note also, with regard to the special meeting that was held last evening, we had an interview for candidates for the open school board position that we had. And reflected in those in those minutes was the appointing of Carol Thornton as our new school board member. Carol will be joining us and filling the vacancy as of about December 20th at our school board meeting that evening. Next up we have is our written information.
In your packet is the October 1 numbers, and they are considerably over what we had anticipated. However, the one note that is concerning to us is our kindergarten classes did not meet our expectation there. So this is, of course, some pieces that we have talked about even last spring and will continue to work on and I think one of the pieces that, one of the pieces that Matt talked about earlier in terms of the community education programming is that birth to four. And I think if we can, find ways that we can connect with people, we have found that once we have that connection, they do continue to be with us. So reaching out and expanding those programs is one of our priorities for this next year.
All right, thank you. Next, we have reports from school board members, beginning with the Northwest Suburban Integration School District Joint Powers Board meeting that was held September 21st, 2016. At that meeting, it was our first meeting of the year as the school year kind of kicks off for them too. So it was kind of getting to know, again, the programs. They're just starting to kick off, and some of the scheduling and things that will be happening throughout the year. A couple of things of note. Obviously, this is the last year that Moundsview will be part of the collaborative. They have put their official resolution in to leave the collaborative, and we discussed what that will mean to it a little earlier tonight. A couple other things that they're looking into are some of the contractual outside services that we do at Northwest Suburban, things like Amundsen strategies and ties, really looking as to whether we're getting the correct work out of those. So we're really looking to see if those are good services that we need to provide. Fortunately, I think we can get some similar services from outside that may be a little bit more beneficial to us. So. Next would be the Association of Metropolitan School Districts Board meeting held October 7th. Mary Kay.
Yes, we reviewed the legislative platform outline, getting ready for the legislative session. We've been working on that routinely for the last several months, getting that in line and having discussion about what that will look like. And our guest speaker was Todd Graham, who's a principal forecaster from the Metropolitan Council, and he talked about forecasting for the next 20 years of population growth and how school districts can utilize that information in their planning by basing it on the state demographics.
All right, thank you. Next up, Marcia, the Northeast Metro 916 board meeting from October 12th.
Yes, well, last year I came to the meeting and discussed a new program that they were starting. It was called Teacher-Child Interaction Training, and last week we had an update on that. And this program, it's a modification of another tool that's used called Parent-Child Interaction Therapy, and that particular therapy has been successful with children who have a history of trauma in their lives. So the teacher-child interaction training, or TCIT, it works to improve children's ability to benefit from their academic experiences, the instruction, and to improve the teacher-child relationship. And the program has been implemented at Carner Blue Elementary, as well as the 2 elementary alternative learning programs. And the outcomes for 2015, they've noticed or measured increase in teachers' effectiveness and success. There's been improved engagement, instruction, and behavior management. There's also been an impact on the culture of this in the schools. Teachers and educational assistants demonstrate more confidence. The classroom culture is more positive, and relationships between the students and the teachers is much stronger. And because of the training that the staff has gone through, there's consistent language and strategies that are put in place and help the adults feel like they're part of a team. And at John Glenn Alternative Learning Program, the elementary school, they've shown results. The restrictive procedures have decreased by 23% for last year. And then so far in this school year, there have been 0 restrictive procedures. And because of the training, it's also increased staff retention. So it's a very good program, and they're aiming to increase the trainings until all the staff at all 3 elementaries are trained.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the important future school board dates. The next AMSD board meeting will be held November 4th at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. at the Ties Conference Center. Northeast Metro 916 board meeting November 9th at the Bel Air School at 6 p.m. Our next Fridley Public School Board meeting November 15th, 5:30 p.m. starts the work session in City Hall Conference Room A. Open forum at 7 p.m., also in Conference Room A. And our next business meeting here in the council chambers at 7:30 p.m. Also, looking a little further out there, the next Truth and Taxation meeting will be held December 20th, 7 p.m. at the City Council chambers. If not, do we have anything else anyone would like to add this evening? Other than that, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, I'll second.
We have a motion by Sampson, seconded by Delvo to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned at 8:24.